Us. Where are we? We got that thing on? Oh, there we go. Us. Hey, Paul. Good to see you. Morgan. How's the weather in Germany? Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming once again. I just left a couple of messages there. A couple of people commented on how much fun it was to have all the feedback from people and all the interaction. So make sure you get in there and add some points, comments, queries, doubts, questions, input, anything you like, and we'll look for some nice discussion. Rochelle, good to see you. So we've got Germany first, Canada second, Australia third. Hey, Daniel. Frederick, Sweden fourth. Claudio, Sensei Claudio, Mike Clark, us. Good to see you. Gaming Stars, all right. Who's Gaming Stars? Us. I should know, I know that. Tiberio from Chicago, good to see you, man. Us. Dzień dobry. Melbourne 6, good on you, man. Hey, Herman. Raj from Nepal, thanks for coming along. It's Om. Oh, good on you, Om. Nice to see you, buddy. Thanks for coming along. We haven't seen Om because Om's one of our students, but he lives on the other side of the state border, and the state border's been closed for a couple of months. You couldn't get in or out. So young Om, who's very dedicated to training, hasn't been able to come. Good to see you, Om. Us, Paddy. Good to see you. Jay. Us. Good to see everyone. Look, let's get some feedback going because I had 3 comments actually from people saying how enjoyable it was to see everybody's input and comments, you know, and like the old saying in Japanese, kiku wa ichiji no haji, kikanu wa issho no haji. Okay, if you ask, it may be a momentary shame, but if you don't ask, it's a lifetime of shame or a lifetime of ignorance. Steve, us, good to see you, man. Ketz and I, that's PE with Mr. Steve. Ketz and I go back probably 30 plus years, 35 years nearly to university. And we spent a lot of time together over the years. He's also trained with us, and his daughter's doing very well in the Muay Thai world now. Everyone, thanks for coming along. Like I said, just give us some input. I know you've all got very solid, experienced viewpoints. So let's hear them and share them. Today, I'm just going to run through a few basics and bounce off your questions as well. But I want to run through a few solo drills, expand on what we've done previously as well. And I wanted to kind of experiment with the idea of the importance of breaking down new skills when you're teaching skills, because some of the skills can be quite complex, but if you break them down a step at a time, it's perfect, you know, and there's no rush to speed it up. You only rush and speed it up when you, sure, I can do that, Claudio. The problem, Claudio, is we've got a lot of bunkai planned, but it's always a lot easier when you have 2 people. But I'm by myself for now, so until my wife decides to take up karate, it's going to be a long haul. But anyway, we're doing a good call, Claudio. We're doing some bunkai videos. But interesting that Claudio mentioned bunkai, because bunkai, the word bunkai means to break down, to compartmentalize. Doesn't actually mean applications, but it's usually used, you know, when you break down a kata, let's break it down. So when you're teaching a new move, it's great to break it down too. You know, even the most fundamental moves can be broken down into 2 or 3, sometimes 4 steps. So we're going to look at that as well. Before I get going, just a shout out to all the Patreon family. Thank you very much for your ongoing love and support. Hey, Chrissy, good on you, Chris. I missed you the other day on my sister's birthday Zoom. My sister who lives in California, the whole family was there, and Chris's wife and children were there, but Chris was working. Poor guy was probably out in a jet ski in the Barrier Reef. Okay, and so a shout out to the Patreon family, and I include Chris there. He's part of the Patreon family. Really appreciate it. It's making a huge difference. It's allowing me to do these videos, and I'm really preparing a lot of good stuff. right now. I'll be perfectly honest, what I should be smashing out 10 hours a day, I'm actually having to reduce to like an hour a day simply because I'm getting the books ready. And if you weren't here last week, I mentioned that the Budo Blueprint logbook, the logbook version, should be out within the next couple of weeks. No jet ski, just a 24-meter boat, you poor bloke. Harry, always good to see you. Nice to see you too, Sensei. It's about, is there a standard to each kata? You know, that's a good question. Is there a standard? Let's talk. Let's train first, talk later. I know it's tempting. If I forget in a sec, Claudia, remind me again. But if I start talking now, we'll never get round to training. So shout out to the Patreon family. And also, if you're not part of the Patreon family, by all means, go along and check out the Patreon website. I think I should be able to find that link for you. Where is it here? There it is. By all means, go along, check it out, share the love. If you like what we're doing, join in the family, because the family's just about, well, I've already sent some stuff out, but we're just about to go into a good solid flow of information each month. Rad, Us, Yokoso, thanks for coming all the way from Hiroshima. So we've got pretty well the whole world covered. All we need now is a couple of family members in South America, and we're laughing. I had my buddy Howie, he's down in southern New Zealand, and he was saying it was down to, you know, some ridiculous cold temperature. So I sent him a snap of the temperature here, but what I did is I went to the Weather Channel and looked up the temperature in Antarctica, where it was minus 48. And I said in that, and I said, oh, it's been pretty cold here too. Couldn't believe it. Us, Dipankar, good to see you, man. Namaste. My still planned duty. Well, okay, never mind. Thanks for coming anyway. Namaste, Dipankar, thanks for coming along. Okay, so we'll have a bit of a warm-up, a bit of a stretch, nice and easy, appropriate to your age. If you're young, you smash. If you're middle-aged, you're careful. If you're my age, you're more and more careful. Okay, we're going to have a bit of a shuffle. Oh, there's a good one right on the end. 10 burpees. I'll see if I can shuffle that back in, and maybe we'll get it up the top there. Shuffle it again. Okay, let me count out 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We did this the other day in the dojo now with the kids. I divided into 4 13s, and the first 13 of the 4 had just under 70 burpees in it. We had every picture card and the whole. It was just mind-blowing. But the kids were happy because it meant that all the burpees were out of the way for the next 3 quarters of the deck. Okay, so I got my 13. We'll have a little bit of a stretch, a little bit of a sweat with the cards, and then we'll get into some discussion. And thank you, Claudio, for your questions. We'll have a look at all of these, and if you've got any questions, folks, please, by all means, leave a message there. Kenneth, good to see you, man. Okay, let's get cracking. I hope I don't get another 70 burpees in this quarter. But anyway, Us. Thanks for coming, guys. Oh, I didn't do a shout out. Look at this beautiful t-shirt from Kvinesdal. Kvinesdal. Kvinesdal is a beautiful town on a fjord in Norway. It's on the North Sea side of Norway. And there's a wonderful dojo there run by a really fantastic instructor named Roy Svensson. Shout out to you, Roy. It was good to see you, man. He was so hospitable, and I had such a wonderful time there. Such a beautiful town. Okay, and you've got to see those fjords. And I was in this chalet right up the top, looking down on the bottom of the fjords there. It was stunning, and all I've ever wanted to do is go back. But I think I must have said something wrong to someone because they didn't invite me back. But anyway, shout out to my good friend Roy Svensson from Kvinesdal. Thank you. Us, knees, it's knees, on, hunter, it's knees, on, she, go, squatting, it's knees, on, she, knee, son, she, son, knee, son, she, breathe in. When you breathe in, drop it back down to the putter. Breathe out and just relax and let the gravity take you down. Remember, keep your weight underside. Means relaxation. If you relax, your weight is naturally underside. Good. Double shoulder width. Twisting. Keep your consciousness at the heart. It's me, son, she, go, look, it's, hutch, Q, Jew down the middle. It's me, son, me, son, me, son, me, son, pull the right. And the left. Remember the acronym for stretching. You grab a stretch so that your gaze, your relaxation, your alignment, and your breathing. Make sure your gaze and your alignment is always correct, otherwise you'll end up injuring yourself over time. Okay, down the middle now, breathing in and out. And then the right leg, it's nice and relaxed again. Let gravity do the work. That's the other G for grab too, by the way. You say grab a stretch, use the gaze because that helps your alignment. But G is also good for gravity. You just relax into it and let gravity do the stretch for you. Nice and relaxed. Neat. Neat. Forward, hip flexors, arm up. Keep your knee off the ground if you're young and strong. If you've got bad joints, be careful. So, and Shkodach. Thumbs forward, fingers back, and relax. Nice and deep. Left shoulder forward. Left shoulder again. Breathe in, out, right shoulder forward. Nice and deep. And Shikobumi. Sun. Oops. I have trouble with my balance on that leg because I've got such a bad knee. But it's a good challenge. And one more. Nice and deep. Leg straight again. Pull down. Breathe in and out. And up. Arms each. Sam. Anta each. Sam migi. Sanchin dachi. Yoi. Come on, tip. Mawashi uke. Each. Nate. San. She. Yo. Yo. Edge. Hard. Okay, even when you break this one down, if you look at it, we rarely, if ever, do this with one arm. We always do it with two arms. We're always, like, we think about it in terms of usefulness with the two arms, and that's a good thing. But sometimes one arm is just as good. So we're here, we block that punch across. Okay, let's go this side. He throws the left, right. Okay, so there's your block for the left. Okay, then he throws the right. There's your block for the right. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Look, right comes in. Boom, you cover it. Just like Enke Gyakski, like Shito Mawashiyuke. Mawashiyuke, they're all of them. They cover this dangerous area through here. Okay, the number of times that people get knocked out from kicks and punches across the side of the head. Okay, so when you do this technique, there's your first block. There's your second block. Well, there's your first block against the left. There's a second block against the right. And you can come straight back. But if you break it down in one arm motion now, well, look at this. Bang. There. So your movement then becomes this. Now, Sanchin, the reason Sanchin's such a beautiful stance is because it's exactly a fighting stance. If you look at my Sanchin from the side, and then you simply turn that heel, there's your fighting stance. Okay, so Sanchin, turn the heel, there's your fighting stance. Okay, and you look at any of the old good boxing books and so on, and they describe the stance as a Sanchin. You'll never see a boxing stance with the toes out. They're always like this. Okay, it always indicates a much solid sense of fighting concepts. Okay, so we're here like this. Now we do the one arm Mawashi, and I'm just constantly working on Kihon, remember? So the one arm Mawashi now turns into a tap down against the left jab, open it up, and palm heel straight back. Palm heel, look, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. See that? 1, 2. So now you do that one-handed, wham, bang, 2, or bang, over the hand, boom, over the top of the right, boom, boom. Take it away, palm heel. Take it away, concussive slap with the tetsui or the knife hand. Take it away, concussive slap straight back with tetsui or shito uchi or kubi uchi, depends which one you use. Bang, there, bang, there. Okay, all out of the mawashi uke. So sometimes it's good not to so much do it as a whole movement every time. Break it down to a single movement. And look at this one. It's just here. I don't want trouble, sir. And the technique comes, look, bang. The second half of mawashi uke is the same as Enke Gyatsuki. Boom. There, you could even do it. Somebody, hey, I don't want trouble. As he strikes, boom, mawashi uke. Move off the target. You don't want to hang around in the target. And then come straight back. Boom. Okay, I love that movement. Boom. You've got that tensho movement. 1, 2. 1, push it away, and kokken. Remember we talked about kokken and the value of it and how Sosa used to use it so much in his street fights and so on because of its effectiveness. And that's straight out of that tensho. 1, 2. You go 1, 2, but instead of 1, 2, bringing it back to here, now you knock it out of the way because one of the best ways to deal with an attack is to damage that attack. Okay, and if you've trained your limbs properly, you should be able to do that. There's a famous karate master, passed away not too long ago, named Nakamura Hideo. He was the head of an organization called the Kendo Kai. And Nakamura Hideo had a beautiful saying. Kitae nukareta kobushi wa sono shunkan tekko ni naru. The trained fist, in the instant, the trained fist becomes like steel. And it's very true. It does. So you're in that situation. We've got tensho here. Tensho. But now we go tensho, knock that away. You've knocked the left out of the way, knocked the right out of the way, come back with kokken. Okay? And here's the beauty of it. 1, knock it out of the way, knock it out of the way. Kokken rip straight away. Uppercut, I mean. Bang, 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 straight away. You catch them by surprise because punches don't come, ba-bum. They usually come with a fraction more like that, or even there. And it brings me along to another basic concept that we work to develop power in the rip, which we try and get onto that later. Okay, so anyway, I digress. Funny that you never let me do that. Okay, so keep that in mind. Break it down, mawashi uke, break it down to one motion. You hear, look, even block the front kick. Block the front kick, straight back. Block the front kick, punch straight back. Block the front kick, boom. Cover the range, move into the next range. Block the kick, move into punch range, keep your footwork going, move into elbow range. You can even take it further. I'm in kick range. Block the kick, punch, half shuffle, boom. Half shuffle, control the arm, control the head. Okay, now I step into 4th range, which is a stand-up grapple. And now I do the movement number 9. I'm pretty sure it's number 9. Movement number 9, number 13 out of Pinan Taikyoku number 1. So I've come in, I've blocked the kick. Range 1. Range 2. Range 3. Now I tie up, bang. Range 4 and Pinan or Taikyoku, bang, take them down to the ground. So you cover 4 ranges. And if you want, you can go to the ground. Later on, we'll do some one-hand drills that help you on the ground. Okay, when I do these drills, if you're an experienced judo player, well, then you might look at these drills and perhaps look at them a little naive. But remember, we're doing these drills for karate people who've never been to the ground. Okay, so there's no point in me getting too sophisticated, even if I could. Yeah. So anyway, let's keep going. We'll do a quarter of a deck. I'm hoping all those big ones are out of here because we did too many last time. Oh dear. 7 hard straight up. Okay, let's go. 7 burpees. 1. You young fellas should try to pop out as many as you can in the time it takes me to do 7. 4. 5. 6. 7. There we go. 8 clubs. 8 squats, which need another good thing to increase 4, 5, 6, increase the intensity is to constantly increase the range of motion. 5 diamonds, 5 sit-ups. Let's do these ones. Which need some sheep. 4. Pendulum up. I don't think I'm going to get away from these hearts. No hands getting up. 6 hearts. Ready. Itch. 8. Sun. Chi. Go. Go. Ho. Ace. Diamonds. So 10 sit-ups. Let's do the jackknife. Hitch. Knee. Sun. Chi. Go. Go. Hitch. Hutch. Q. Q. King. Clubs. No hands getting up. Pendulum. Tuck. Straight. Stand. That's a good drill. I want to look at some solo drills today, so I might add that one. Itch. Knee. Sun. She. Go. Look. Hitch. Touch. Q. Q. Hitch. Knee. Sun. 2 more clubs. 2 more burpees. Hitch. Knee. Queen. Spades. 12 push-ups. Hitch. He. Look. Hutch. Jump. Knee. Next one. 8 diamonds. Let's stick to our jackknives. Hitch. Knee. Sun. She. Go. Look. Hitch. Arch. 4 burpees. Not getting away from the burpees. Next time I do 70 in a quarter, I'll leave that quarter aside. Ready, 4 burpees. Hitch. Knee. Sun. She. Big one. 9 sit-ups. Ready. Hitch. Knee. Sun. He. Go. Go. Hitch. Touch. Q. Jack. Diamonds. 11 sit-ups. Keep doing the jackknives if you can. I'm going to keep trying it as well. Ready? 11. Let's knee. Sun. He. Go. Go. Fish. Push. Q. Q. Itch. Push up. Picked the wrong day to go to jackknives. 10 clubs. No hands getting up. Pendulum. Tuck. Push. Step up. 10 clubs. That's 10 squats. Hitch. Knee. Sun. She. If you don't like push-ups, this is a good one because we've only had 1 push-up. Hutch. Q. Q. Last card. Spoke too soon. 7 push-ups. Hitch. Knee. Sun. She. Go. Look. Hitch. Okay, grab a drink. Get warm if you're in the north. Oh, no, you're not. Get cool if you're in the north. And get warm if you're in the south. So that was your quarter of a deck for the day. Try and do the whole deck. We just don't have time when we do this. Otherwise, we run out of everything. Okay. Let me just have a look at some of these messages. Savitri, good to see you, man. And Leo, thanks for joining in. Okay, so like I was saying, we just want to... Us, Clarence from South Africa. That's it. We've pretty well got it covered. All we need is South America. We've got the whole United Nations going on here. Well, you'd expect that out of 19 million viewers. I'm sorry, 19 viewers. I don't mind we have small numbers. I just love that it's the same dedicated people day after day, because I'm confident that you'll get something out of it. So if you've got any comments to make, please add them in now and we'll discuss it. Sensei Claudia was asking about bunkai. Well, I'm sure I've mentioned before, because I tell my students all the time, that my philosophy of bunkai actually came from Mahatma Gandhi, funnily enough, because Mahatma Gandhi said that the poet, when he's writing, is not aware of all the possible interpretations of his poetry, because the meaning of the poem is in the reader, not in the writer. Okay? So when these masters created the kata, there's a couple of things we have to take into account. One, karate was really designed as a non-combat, a non-weaponed art to deal with, invaders, samurai. They came to Okinawa and banned weapons. So that's why the nunchaku and the staff and so on became weapons, because they were actually farm implements. The tonfa, as we know it, or the kubota, the KR-17, or the police weapon with the handle. That was originally a handle for like a wheat mill. And the tonfa was designed to beat the rice grain off the straw. So they went to non-weapon fighting. And a lot of it was hidden in dance. Now, when Anko Itosu, the teacher of Funakoshi, who was one of the teachers of Sosai, wanted to introduce karate to the Japanese education system, he couldn't exactly go in and say, well, this technique is designed to take the eyeball out, and then when we make a fist and pull it back, that's designed to rip the eyeball out and crush it so that it can never be used again. And this technique, when we do this, that's designed to snap the neck. And you're not going to get a lot of hearing time in a meeting designed to decide whether they're going to introduce your fighting art into the children's school curriculum. So everything was changed. A lot of the dangerous techniques like throat grabs and eye gouges became a fist. And there was no hiding. Oh, good on you, Al. There you go. Sensei Mike, your book is arriving there today. That's good news. Pity we couldn't get Mike to do a virtual autograph. Okay, so a lot of these dangerous techniques were hidden, and a lot of the techniques were actually experimented on in ways that actually produced some pretty crazy injuries. So the techniques were often hidden, which means the bunkai was often hidden. If they're going to approach the education system, well, then what they're going to do is not say, this is for ripping eyes out, and this is for ripping throats, and that's for breaking a jaw, and this one snaps the neck, and this one breaks the arm. And they're going to go, well, this is for, Anko Itosu in his 10 precepts, he says karate is for real fighting, and it's for health and health benefits. You have to decide which one you're doing, because you can't do karate designed for health benefits and think it's going to work in a real fight. And likewise, if you just do fighting for realistic application, well, you're going to get hurt. Okay, so you've got to decide, like Leo said, it was meant for battle and self-improvement. Okay, but generally speaking, if you wanted it for health and longevity and so on, you had to decide that that's what you're using it for. You couldn't get the two confused. So as long as you got that part right, well, then you could start to, for example, there are people that are 100% their entire life is getting kata good so that they can win kata tournaments. And they probably don't even do kumite. And if they do kumite, it'll be very carefully controlled kumite. They never actually approach the paradigm, which is gradually move towards a non-compliant opponent whose objective is to hurt you. Okay? So in terms of Claudio's question about are there set bunkai for the kata, yes, I have no doubt there are. When they say you step through with an upper block, what you're doing is you're punching an upper block. You're blocking an upper punch. Okay, so that's the set bunkai. But then what you have to do is ask yourself, how will that serve me? How can this serve? And you can play with it. And that's where I came up with the concept of a block is a lock, is a blow, is a throw. So that block, and you take out the last movement of Pinan 2 where you block the kick, block the punch, and then you loop in the kata, it goes boom, boom, and then step through like that, or 1, 2, there, okay, 1, 2, there. You can apply that to a lock. 1, 2, the block now becomes a lock, and you take them down. Or the block, the elbow becomes a blow. Or if you take them in, it becomes a throw. So like Gandhi says, the interpretation of the poem is in the reader. It's not in the writer. The writer wrote about, it's like that beautiful poem by one of my favorite poets, Robert Frost. You know, the one, two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and being one traveller long I stood. And, you know, he was from up in Vermont, and I went looking for Robert Frost information when I was in Vermont doing a seminar 10 years ago. And, you know, that beautiful, beautiful poem finishes with the lines, I shall be telling this with a sigh, someday ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less travelled by, and that has made all the difference. Okay, now, this has become the central life philosophy for thousands of people, perhaps even more. But when I read an interview with Robert Frost, he said the poem was written because he was out for a walk with his buddy and they got into an argument because his buddy wanted to go one way and he just decided to go the other. So it was just a perfectly normal day-to-day activity and experience that he wrote this stunningly beautiful poem full of allegory. And so that's why when Gandhi says, you know, it's the reader that determines the meaning, not the writer. Okay, that's a beautiful, beautiful thing, Leo. But you can develop balance between longevity. Oh, look, I think that's 100%. And Sosai said, you know, Sosai often spoke about one of his top students in the old days, in the Oyama Dojo days before Kyokushin was even named. And he had a student there who was, Sosai said he was the best of the best. He was better than anyone he'd ever met in his whole life. And he was a problem child. I've written about him in my book. I've added a whole section on this fighter. He was, even as a high school kid, he was going out and getting into fights, deliberately picking fights with Yakuza and things like that, and doing dojo yaburi, which he'd go from dojo, he'd find out about strong karate dojos from different styles, and he'd go in, walk in, and just bash everyone. And, you know, it wasn't a good reputation, so Sosai ended up throwing him out. But the point was, he was the perfect example of someone who didn't find that balance that Leo's talking about there, because Sosai used to tell him, you know, your karate is great, but you've got to find balance. You've got to get your attitude and your mindset correct. So he had the three legs wrong, you know, the shingi tai. He had the shin part. As far as he was concerned, the mind part was all about powerful, aggressive, never say die, never back down, doesn't matter who you are. Well, that's part of Shin as well. Okay, but the other part of Shin is having the mind of love, you know, of being considerate to others. And so Sosai used to tell him, you've got to get that balance that Leo's talking about there. Okay. And I swear to God, I mean, Leo, I think you're like reading my mind at the moment, because you've got constant practice and analysis Well, the whole theme of what I wanted to talk about today was I have a really good friend, and a shout out to my buddy Ryan Fiorenzi. I've known Ryan for at least 20 plus years. We don't know each other through the martial arts. We know each other through another avenue of our life, which is very important to us. And I catch up with Ryan every couple of years. He runs a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu dojo in Plymouth, Michigan. And I said Michigan there because if my wife's watching and I said Michigan, she would have jumped down the stairs and throttled me. So my good buddy Ryan's in Plymouth, Michigan, and his dojo is the Kaizen dojo. Now, as you probably know, Kaizen kind of means this concept of incremental improvement. And when I read Leo's note there, constant practice and analysis, well, that's a 100% perfect interpretation of the word Kaizen. Kaizen meaning, and I'll write it for you here in my little trusty notebook. Where are we? Okay, this is Kaizen. So that's the kanji for, I'm holding it at an angle so it doesn't get the light, Kaizen. Okay, Kaizen literally means that steady incremental improvement. Okay, and that in a sense is what Kihon is. And like Leo mentioned there, constant practice and analysis. Well, that analysis part is what I just said. How you just said, you ask yourself, how can this serve? Okay, what I'm doing here, how can this serve? So that's an upper block. How can it serve? Well, it could be that I'm just being overwhelmed and I just put my arms up and there's the block, but at the same time I lean forward and I pop him right on the eyebrow with the tip of my elbow. So that block becomes a blow. And then I swing around and catch him in a guillotine. So now that block all of a sudden becomes a crank, so the block is a lock, is a blow, is a throw. And this is the whole concept of incremental improvement based on what the Japanese called Kaizen. So the goal of all training basically is that constant, you analyze everything you're doing, you ask, how can this serve? And sometimes you'll find that I've followed a stream of technique and a flow of technique down a rabbit hole for weeks, and then at the end I just realized it only works against a compliant opponent, because obviously when you're working on a new technique, you work with a partner who's compliant. You start with 100% compliance, you work towards 100% non-compliance. Okay, so some techniques will work 99% of the way, and then they just won't work under pressure against a non-compliant opponent, because that non-compliant opponent will just find that millimeter of space that he needs to get out and change the whole nature of what you're doing. I was talking to Francisco Filio many years ago, and he was talking about his axe kick and the way he used to use it, and he'd bring his axe kick up with his left leg and then change into a roundhouse kick. So the kick would come up, bang. And he said they worked on doing the same thing with the axe kick with the left and coming over, because his left leg forward, right? So his left leg had come up, axe kick, roundhouse. So the right leg, which his back leg had come up, axe kick, and he couldn't make the roundhouse kick work. And they worked and they thought it might have just been his flexibility or something. In the end, they realized that because the left leg was forward, the roundhouse kick popped over. But the roundhouse kick off the back leg wouldn't work because the hip was wrong. So what he did is he changed it all. He went axe kick, left leg, he went axe kick into roundhouse. And this is good to drill. Right leg, he went axe kick and drew the knee and went straight into side kick. So if you ever watch Filio very carefully, whenever he does an axe kick into roundhouse, it's always with his left leg. If he does an axe kick into right, with the right leg, it goes into side kick. So there's a perfect example of, like Leo mentioned, about this practice and analysis. How can it serve? Well, obviously with the right leg, the roundhouse wasn't serving at all, so they changed the nature of it. You know, Okinawa karate is seen a little differently from mainland. The aim is not to win a fight, but not to lose one. In other words, if not possible, don't fight. Yeah, that's a fair call. And even Masayama, I think, after he got out of his period of hot-headedness with the military police during the occupation, he would agree with you, Mike. And that student of his who used to get into all kinds of trouble, going around beating up schools and beating up Yakuza and so on, he was just a young kid. He's doing this when he's 17, 18 years old. And so he honestly thought that he was doing it to prove the name of Kyokushin, but all it was doing was bringing problems. So that's why Sosai ended up throwing him out. So I think, and it's interesting, everything that we're doing is kind of hinting. I mean, everything connects together, because you said there, Mike, that the objective is not to win a fight, but not to lose. And if you go back to the 7 stages of Kumite, you might remember that when I talked about those 7 stages of Kumite, that the primary objective, once you get the fundamentals of your stance, your gaze, your footwork, then the next step is the defensive mindset. So when I teach groundwork in range 5, okay, when I teach groundwork in range 5, what we do is we have a concept where we, for probably the first few months and then ongoing again over and over, we work the idea of survival before anything else. So when you come in and train at the dojo, you say you want to get into groundwork, show me an armbar. I'll go, well, before you can go to the armbar, you have to tap at least 250 times in your survival shapes. So it's exactly the same, what you're saying there, Mike. The objective of the game in the BJJ, there's a famous story of a fellow named Saulo Ribeiro. Any Portuguese Brazilians? I can't pronounce it. Saulo Ribeiro. That's it, Ribeiro. And he was talking, this guy was a world champion at BJJ, and he was talking about the first time he ever went and trained with Helio Gracie, the guy that fought Kimura back in 51. And Helio Gracie, by this stage, was in his late 80s or early 90s or something. And this guy said, you know, I'm a world champion. I'm a current world champion. So what am I meant to think when I'm about to spar this guy who's 80, 90 years old? So he said he'd go easy on him. And then when he started the fight, the old Helio Gracie said, you're good, but I don't think you can beat me. And that surprised Saulo Ribeiro. So as he's rolling, he's trying stuff and nothing's working. And at the end of the roll, he wasn't able to make Helio Gracie, this 85 or 90-year-old man, tap. And at the end of the fight, Helio Gracie said to him, mind you, I didn't say I could beat you. I just said that you couldn't beat me. So his objective was to survive and not win. It wasn't to win. And that's exactly what I think Mike's saying there. And that's, at the end of the day, I think we all understand the concept of trying to avoid the fight. But the objective of our training is always survival first. Okay, so if you can take a good shot, I had that situation arise many years ago where I'd moved to a place up in North Queensland, and Christian will be able to confirm this. It's a funny story. I'd moved onto an island called Thursday Island, where I was very much a minority there. I was the customs officer, and it was a very small community of white people who were there primarily for government jobs and hospital work and so on. But the overwhelming majority were islanders. And I'd started a karate club, and the word was out that I was the karate guy. So I remember one night, one of the big boys, one of the big middle islanders, central islanders, so he was built like a sumo wrestler. He said, you're the karate guy. Hey, come on, let me see if you can take a shot. And he's wound up this big shot, and he's hit me I said, come on, back off. And he's going, whack again. He says, he's hit me, and he's getting frustrated because every time he hits me in the belly, he's just like getting angrier and angrier that it wasn't hurting. And I have to admit, I mean, he's about 130K, so it's a matter of time before I can stand there I can only take so many shots. And he's finally about to wind this big one up, and my buddy Muti, that I've spoken of so often, came and told him to back off. And see, that was a perfect example. I didn't want to get into a fight. And Muti pointed out that the problem with the community up there is, he said, I can fight him because I've fought them all. He says, if you fight him, then you have to fight his brothers and his cousins, and the next thing you know, the social requirement there is, if you fight one, you have to fight them all, whether you beat him or not. So anyway, that was a funny thing, which reminds me of what Mike said there. I strongly remember when you said that Kyokushin is a hard training, inner power, Neidan style. Neidan. I'm not too sure what that word Neidan is. But yeah, it's a hard, it's definitely it's not the hard style, it's the hard training style. You're right, I said that. It's often recognized as a hard style because the kumite is hard and so on. I don't think that's the interpretation of a hard style. A hard style is generally a style that is hard and linear and straight. A soft style is a style that tends to intercept and go soft and circular, you see. And Kyokushin overwhelmingly is a soft style in that respect. It's just that it's a hard fighting soft style. I agree. Objective changes as the chaining trains. Yeah, indeed. You go from 100% compliance to 100% non-compliance. But that is done with trust and all that sort of stuff. Raj, we'll see you Wednesday. You got to go, Raj. Thanks, man. Boss. You got to work. Yeah, no worries. Okay, so I just wanted to run through a couple of drills. And the first drill is simply using rubbers. And if you haven't, I mean, you know, the elastic rubbers that you hold on your shoulders and so on. And we started doing this back in the 80s. In the 80s, we had a dojo in Brisbane in Margaret Street, which is above a bicycle shop. And the bike shop used to throw out all their, you know, people bring the bikes in and get the tubes changed. They get a flat tire, so they'd throw the old tubes out. And there was a pile of tubes downstairs. So we just connected all the tubes and made these long rubbers. And we connect the rubbers to our feet and hands. And we go. And these days, you know, I'm sure we weren't the only ones doing it. So people have come up with this great idea now. I've got to get my legs awake because I've been sitting in Seiza for the last half an hour. Boom. Okay. So you've got these rubber straps like this. See this? These rubber straps. Okay, and you can get them in different hardnesses, different resistance levels. And when we do a circuit, we'll wrap one here, we've got another one over there, and you hold them like this. See, I'll see if I can turn so you can see a little bit. You hold them like this, and the further you move away, the stronger the resistance. So it's measurable. Everything has to be measurable. If it's not measurable, there's no Kaizen. Okay, there's no incremental improvement because you don't know from day to day if you're incrementally improving. So you can draw a line on the ground, you put your toes there, and then you're simply going 1, 2, trying to think of, is my concentration here? Is my relaxation right? Is my waki closed and my shoulders relaxed? 1, 2, 3, 6. And you do maybe 20, then you switch sides. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do 20, and each time you move a little bit further away. 1, 3. And then you can work on the idea of using it to bridge the gap. So you tie it around. I have a belt there too, which I'm going to show you this because it's so cool. See this thing? This belt. And what you do is you strap that belt around the handles like that. Okay? Then you put it around you here. And it has a connection. Okay, so now what you can do is it's attached. So now you can use it for your footwork. Boom, your explosive footwork. And then you can even use it for conditioning. You can turn around and work your footwork this way. And if you want, you can work it backwards like this. Boom. So you can work all the way around now. And this is a great tool that we use. And you can just be there, bang, 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 and you're constantly working forward. The strap over there, which I didn't use because it's out of camera range, is a heavier gauge, so the resistance is much greater. That's one really cool solo drill tool. And like I said, if you don't have those rubber straps, you can use tyres, old bicycle tyres. Go to the local bike shop, say, you got any old tyres you don't want? They'll give them to you for free. Yes, it's good. Use it for punching and kicking, exactly. Herman, how do we know what Kyokushin style and organisation is legit? You don't, unfortunately. It is a crazy, crazy world. I know of guys, I heard of one guy who failed his second Dan, got so annoyed with it that he broke away, started his own group, made himself a fifth Dan. Now, don't forget, Solsai, when he started his Kyokushin Oyama Dojo, he was a seventh Dan in Goju who put himself back to sixth Dan out of humility for his teacher. Hey, that's a very cool thing, Mike. See, Mike Clark's there saying he practices Sanshin like that with a band in each hand and another around my hips. That's perfect. Okay, I'm going to steal that and I'm going to come back and do a whole session on it. No, I won't. But that's a great, how about that? That's really interesting too. Except your Goju Sanshin is slightly different to ours, but we could do it without the turn. I have no doubt. So anyway, Herman, how do we know what's real and what's not? It's very difficult. But the first step is look at how closely they adhere to the teachings of Solsai. A lot of people say they do. A lot of people don't really. Even some very legit organizations now who have very, I guess, legit claim to connection to Solsai as much as anyone, they've really fallen away and gone right away from Solsai's teaching. You know, they've introduced complete new range of kata, complete new range of kumite. They don't even do Kyokushin style tournaments anymore. It's all semi-contact and all this. And then you have other styles which are run by guys who have made themselves 8th, 9th, and 10th dans. See, the problem is when these organizations started, they wanted to try and create legitimacy through numbers. And so what had happened is old mate over here in this organization, they said he couldn't grade for third dan yet because he wasn't good enough. So he goes over here and says, I'm not happy with that organization. If I join your organization, what grade will you give me? And they go, well, we need the numbers. How many students you got? Yeah, I got 100 students. All right, you come, we'll give you a third dan. So he goes over there to the third, gets his third dan. 6 months later, he goes over there for his fourth dan. 6 months. Here's a true story. Cross my heart. Had a guy contact us. We want to join your organization. What dan are you? 8th dan. All right, send us your certificate. So he sends a certificate for 8th dan, but the certificate was from his own created Kyokushin self-defense martial arts organization. So he'd made himself an 8th dan. So he said, no. What dan were you in Kyokushin? He goes, I was 4th dan. So, okay, send us your 4th dan certificate. So he sent us his 4th dan certificate, and it's English one side, Japanese the other. The English side said his name and 4th dan. On the left, it said his name and 2nd dan. Okay, so he was a 2nd dan wanting to join and get an 8th dan. And the only reason he wanted to join was to get a legitimate Kyokushin 8th dan certificate. So, Herman, it's a nightmare. But the only way you have to do is use your own brain, keep an eye out, have a very close look at the content of their training. Is it in adherence with what Solsai taught? That's the first step, okay? If it is, then do they have legitimate, unbroken connection to Solsai? That's called parampara in Indian, where you have the teacher-disciple relationship unbroken all the way back to the teacher. The problem is after Solsai died, a lot of those, it's a little bit like Christianity. They all claim to be representatives of Christ, and they'll go to war and fight each other. They'll kill each other. So it's like that, Herman. So I don't know which group you're with and which ones you're doubting with. Don't put anything here. It's not necessary. You can send me a private message if you like on Facebook, and we can discuss it. But, it's a little bit tricky like that. Okay. I just wanted to talk about that Kaizen. I only showed you that one drill. Let me show you a couple more quickly. These solo drills that you can use. One we've done, and I wanted to expand on it. And that's the solo drill for when you go on the mat. Okay, so we have the knee ride. And these are really good, simple drills. And like Mike was saying, the objective for a karate guy, even Soso said in chapter 15 of This is Karate, the objective of the karate guy on the ground is not to win on the ground. It's to survive on the ground. Because if you get taken down by a judo player or a wrestler and you don't know what to do, it's all over Red Rover. Okay, so the objective on the ground for karate guy is to return the fight to range 1 and 2, where you're much more capable. On the ground, it's a survival matter. You have to be able to survive. And on the ground, I've identified what we call the 11 major positions on the ground. And if you can survive in those 11 major positions, there's pretty well nothing, literally nothing that you will ever be faced with on the ground if you can survive in those things. So the way we approach the ground game for our stand-up guys is these are the 11 positions. You work on a survival flow for each of those 11 positions. Then you work on 2 survival flows, and then you work on 3, because you're much better off having half a dozen different escapes to something than 1, because if they know how to shut your 1 down, you're in trouble. But if they know how to shut down 5 of your 6, you've still got the 6th. Okay? So one of the positions we have is this one here. It's the knee ride. Okay? First thing you do is you don't lean your knee on the ground, because if my knee's on the ground, my weight is also on the ground, and that's not where you want it. I want the weight on my belly. So my knee's here, my foot's there, looking away to get pressure, and I increase the pressure by increasing this angle. So if the angle is straight, you're at optimal pressure. Okay? If it's bent, the more it's bent, the more my weight comes off my opponent. Okay? And we've done this one. It's just a reviser for now, and then I'll add one on. So we have this knee ride, and from there, depending on the gravity, you can punch, or you can choke, or you can simply control. If your objective is to control, you have the arm, you can pull the arm up. You can actually pull their arm up like this and catch it around here, and you can control them really, really easily. When I get a partner back, I'll demonstrate all this stuff. Okay? If the gravity of it is such that he's got a weapon, well, then that weapon's in the hand. You can contain that weapon, put it on the ground, and lean your knee, and you staple his arm to the ground, and then you can finish the job, because the gravity of it is very different. Okay, and like Mike said there, that the objective of your training changes with the nature of the training. Okay, next thing we do, we have our knee ride. Sometimes what they'll do is they'll start to turn in and reshape, and you need to regain control. So I'm going to go 1, tricep. One of the key principles of groundwork all the time is a tricep base. We have 3-legged stool, never 2, 3. 1, I bring my knees together, kick my feet up, and then simply switch sides. So now I extend my hip to get the full pressure down again. Again, hands, 1, not too narrow, not next to his shoulders. Your arms can get caught there and you run into trouble. Tripod, 1, 2, 3. 1, knees together, 2, 3, up. 1, 2, 3, up. You can do this without a pad. Much better even with a kick pad, with a punching bag. 1, 2, 3, 4. Watch my feet. Don't be lazy here. Don't go 1, 2, 3, 4. Because if you do that, your legs will get tangled in his legs. The next thing you know, you're on your back wondering, why was I wasting my time there? Okay. 1, 2. You kick your feet all the way up, so it's out of the range of his thighs. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice how we're breaking it down. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, then you put it together. 1, 2. Like that. And you can do it on the pad. Here. 1, 2. Like that. Now you can also do one I wanted to add today is a reverse of this. And it's very good again. Sometimes they're turning in, they're taking the pressure, the head's coming in. If you can imagine the head, everything, They want to get that pressure of that knee off, so they're starting to turn like this, you see? So what I'm going to do is this. Plant, hold his body down. Where you hold is determined by how he moves. 1. Step 2. And then I do a very cool karate footwork. 3. And I switch knees, and then I switch sides. Okay? Left knee down, straight hip. I plant. I like to go shoulder, because remember, he's rolling in to get that pressure off him. All right? So that's his back now. So we want to go after the back. Like Jean LaBelle says, if you can get behind him, you can do anything. You can beat anyone as long as you can get behind him. Okay, so I'm planting his hip and his shoulder. I step across. 1, and I do the karate footwork, which is a hip switch. Hip switch. And then 3. 1 last time. 1, 2. Your hands are adjusting as you go. 3. 1. Step 2, switch 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's another great solo drill that you can do with or without a pad that will help you immensely when you finally get into range 5 on the ground. Rubber straps are bands are talking about. Yeah, you can get them. Yeah, you can get them from different places. The ones I use, which I highly recommend, are from Lifeline USA. I think that's what they used to be called anyway. There you go. And that's true. See, Mike Clark, for those who don't know, Mike Clark's been writing martial arts journalism for as long as I can remember. I used to have a magazine column called the Cameron Quinn column in an old Australian magazine called Australasian Fighting Arts, which I think to this day was one of the best magazines ever. And I'd seen Mike's name in that, and I'd spoken to Kevin Brennan about Mike. I only met Mike in the last couple of months online. But Mike, there you go. He's been writing for 30 years. And he's never found a school of karate that survived fragmentation following the passing of the founder. It's true. It makes sense. It makes sense. Abel. Hello, my friend. ¿Cómo está? Is that correct? Nice to see you from Spain. So the problem with it is karate teaches men to be strong. It teaches its students to be strong, confident. And so when the leader goes, what you have is you have all these alpha males. They're all alpha males to different degrees. They all have different hierarchies of dominance. And those alpha males then all of a sudden, without their father figure, they start to get into arguments. And it's a very fair comment, Mike. I think shuhari, yeah, that's it. You know, that's what people use the argument of shuhari, but I think they miss the point when they actually leave for the wrong reason. It's not shuhari at all. It's just disloyalty. And my yoga teacher says that loyalty is the highest law. And if you understand that loyalty is the highest law, then you understand the best way to approach all this. It can be difficult because sometimes one of the reasons I think, and Mike might be able to confirm this or tell me that I'm completely wrong, is that often what happens is the person chosen by that founder to take over after the founder completely gets it wrong. Toda esta evidencia. Obrigado. That's gracias, muchas gracias, amigo. Was often the person chosen by the founder to take over does such a bad job. And I always compare it to, you know, if a CEO does a crappy job in a company, well, the board fires the CEO. It doesn't affect the company. But what happens in the karate organization is if that CEO, you know, the head of the organization does a bad job, people don't get rid of him. They just break away and start their own, and it's exponential, you know. One of my students, Jamshed, he just sent a funny message. If I could find it, I'd read it, but I don't think I've got it available quickly. But anyway, he was telling a funny story about a guy he got he got the COVID-19 virus. So he had to tell everyone he was connected with, including his wife, his girlfriend, and his girlfriend's family. So his girlfriend told her family and he told his, but it turns out he had 2 more girlfriends. So he had to tell them and their family. And it turns out that she had another boyfriend. So she had to tell her boyfriend and his family. And it turns out that boyfriend had another 2 girlfriends. And then it turns out that this guy's girlfriends both had another boyfriend. And it was just like, talk about exponential interest. It was just hilarious, the power of compounding interest. Okay, so that's what happens in the martial arts. You see, yeah, they follow their teacher, and that's a fair call. Look, I don't think there's any answer to it, to be quite honest, Herman. What you have to do is use your discrimination. You have to be like coldly discriminative about the quality of what they teach. And you have to be very, very careful about what you're told in terms of their connection to the teacher. I know there's one organization out of East Europe, they've started it, and the guy was he was very junior, was trying to force his way up his organization, but they weren't happy with it. So he went and joined another organization and became the branch chief of that organization. Then the next thing you know, he's gone from like 2nd dan. He's working, well, if I'm a branch chief, I need a 6th dan. So they've given him a 6th dan or something. Then he leaves them, starts his own organization. He has absolutely no cred whatsoever. I don't even think he was around in the day of Solsai, let alone training with him. And even if he was just a junior student. And he started his own organization and is now calling himself a 10th dan. And that's the ridiculousness of it, okay? So some organizations they break away. This is why I think I look at like Azuma Takashi Senpai and Sato Katsuaki Senpai and even Ashihara Hideyuki. All these guys break away. At least they had the integrity to call their style a different name. These people that break away and teach something completely different or teach without any connection, direct connection to Sosai. I mean, in this generation, Herman, the first thing I would ask is, were they taught directly by Sosai? If not, well, then I don't think they should be starting their own organization. It's that simple. That's one yardstick you can use. Doesn't mean what they're teaching is not strong. It just means they don't really have a legitimate claim to be calling themselves a Kyokushin organization. Call it something else. Just don't call it Kyokushin. So when Azuma broke away and he started Daido Juku, which became Kudo, and then Soeno Senpai broke away and started Shidokan, and Ashihara Shihan broke away and started Ashihara Kaikan, and Sato started Sato Juku, and Nakamura Tadashi Shihan started Seido Juku. And, these people at least had the integrity to call their stuff a different name, even though quite often they went on espousing the praise and praising Sosai. Okay, they had the integrity not to try and take advantage of his name. Okay, thanks for the class. Okay, yep, look, good on you, everyone. I bet I've gone overboard. I didn't even get round to doing any more than a couple of drills. That knee ride drill is a beaut drill because it's good for your fitness, good for your flexibility, and cross my heart, if you ever end up on the ground and you get in that position, it's the bomb. You'll really get a lot out of that drill. I saw it all, stayed away from it all, and just concentrate on my training. Yes, that's true. Just got to, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Rochelle. You're very patient. We didn't do much. I hope you enjoyed in. I hope you got into the deck of cards, at least if you do the stretch and the deck of cards, that's great. And today, everybody, you take away. Once again, check out Patreon. And don't forget Richard Kimura, our good buddy who comes here regularly. Yesterday, he had a major operation in hospital, and I think he's still in hospital recovering. So look for Richard Kimura online at Facebook and give him a shout out. We'll say hello here. He's a good long-term friend of Bobby Low Shihan. So look out for Richard, who's recovering in hospital now after a serious operation. Thanks, Harry, Claudio, Us, thank you. Mike, Us, always thank you. Again, Mike. Frederick, thank you. Hedo and Rochelle, good on you. Savitri, thanks, man. Thanks. And Daniel, good to see you, man. Thank you, everyone. Look forward to seeing you Wednesday. Us. Teaching techniques. Yes, remind me next time, Claudio. I'll talk about different ways to teach. Us, thank you. Abel, muchas gracias. Muchas gracias from Spain, amigo. Thank you, Claudio.